Hello, welcome back. This is the multicolor, colorless, and land set review of limited experience Rivals of Ixalan set review. As always, I am Adam, and joining me is Chris.
Hello.
And do you have anything to say before we start, Chris?
So, for the order of these cards, within the multicolor, we're starting with the cycle of gold uncommons. Then we're throwing in bicolor identity, all of the multicolor rares, and then moving up to the multicolor mythics bicolor identity. And yeah, the rest of it just goes as one would assume. So I'm ready to just jump right in.
Alright. Our first card's Resplendent Griffin. It's 1 white-blue for a 2/2 flying griffin. It has Ascend, and when it attacks, if you have the City's Blessing, it gets a 1/1 counter.
I mean, it's fine. It's a win trade.
It's technically a worse win Drake because it costs a second colored mana, but that's not.
But it's situationally better.
What?
It's situationally better in the late game.
Yeah, but that's just his front side. If you have the Ascend, it attacks it as a 3/3 for 3,
yeah.
Which is fine. This and also one of our later ones. It's nice that they put a gold uncommon in for the 2 that aren't tribal supported, but they're also not tribal supported, so it really depends how good white-blue good stuff is just going to be in this format.
Yeah, white-blue. I feel like white-blue's trying to be the Ascend deck, and I want to see if that works, but I don't wholeheartedly expect it to.
Yep.
Moving on from the fine card, we have another fine card, Deadeye Brawler. It is 2 a blue and a black for a 2/4 pirate with Death Touch and Ascend. And once you have City's Blessing, assuming you get it, Deadeye Brawler gets, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Yep. Those 3 little words are great.
Yeah, it's either a 2/4 makes it very, very hard to block efficiently because this will kill whatever you put in front of it. So it's usually at parity on mana with whatever it's going to trade for, or it's drawing you a card a turn because they don't want to sacrifice a creature to it. In either case, I would be happy playing it.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of awesome, actually. So, I'm perfectly fine with a sort of pseudo-unblockable 2/4 that sometimes draws me a card.
Yep. It is more than serviceable. I would be happy with it in my deck. Direfleet Neckbreaker is our next card. It's 2 black-red for a 3/2 orc pirate, and attacking pirates you control get +2/0. Now, because it's a 3/2, the stats on this are essentially non-existent. You'll be playing this, and unless it wins you the game on the spot, you will never attack with it, because you want that effect constantly.
It might as well be an enchantment.
Yeah, it attacks as a 5/2, and then gets blocked by a 2/2 and dies, and then you just feel like you made a terrible life choice. That being said, if they have no board and you attack them with a 5/2, they're going to run out of life very quickly.
Yeah.
So most of the time, this, like you said, this is just going to be an enchantment and just sit around on your board and make all of your attacking pirates a lot better.
I quite like the Direfleet Neckbeard. Like, it's not amazing, and of the pseudo cycle of pseudo lords, this is probably about the worst, but it's still a lord of some sort. So I think it's still fine.
Yeah. Onwards and upwards.
Moving on, we have Raging Regisaur. It is 2 a red and a green for a 4/4 dino. And when a Reggie here attacks, it deals, or he, or she, not sure, deals 1 damage to target creature or player. That's a pinger right there if I ever saw one. I'm really looking forward to somebody dropping their stupid little 4-drop 3/1 flyer I just ping it with Rage and Regisaur. And then they eat 4 damage because they have no real creatures to block with. Yeah. I like it. I like it a lot.
My little thing about this one, I like it a lot. I think it's a super cool card. I like that that it pretty well sets up red and green, because you can always ping one of your own creatures to get an enrage trigger out of it. My only thing is you have to ping before or when it attacks, which means they can block with that in mind.
Yeah.
So, like, you could ping a 3/2 and then they just not block with it, and then you don't kill the 3/2 kind of thing. But that is a very, very minor downside. You'll always find something to do with that 1 damage on an otherwise pretty great card.
Yeah, I mean, I really like it. It's in the long line of red-green 4-drops that are good creatures, and it's still good.
Yep. Our next one's Atsukin Seer. It's 1 green and white for a 2/3 human druid. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and you can sacrifice it to return a dinosaur from your graveyard to your hand. I like this card a lot.
Yeah.
It's a mana fixer early when you need it, and later on, it's a big dinosaur.
I think it's perfectly fine. I mean, I'm not super excited about it, but I know that it's probably going to be reasonably playable, and I will never be sad to have it in my deck, especially if I'm in any sort of dinosaur tribal in green-white.
Yeah, a little thing to note, its second ability doesn't require it to tap, so you can tap it for mana, float the mana, and then sacrifice it and use the mana that you floated to pay for the dinosaur you bring back.
That's kind of sweet, actually.
Yeah, or you can, like, suicide swing in with it, and then, like, it gets in for 2, and then you sacrifice it and upgrade it on main phase 2. There's a lot of pretty sweet stuff you can do, considering it. Or you can, as usual for non-tap sacrifice abilities, you can throw it in as a blocker for a 5/5, and then sacrifice it, and get its effect without taking damage. I think it's a super sweet card.
Yeah. This next one, though, I think is even better.
Yeah.
It is Legion Lieutenant. It's the white-black one, of course. White and a black for a 2/2 vampire. With other vampires you control, get +1/+1. So if you're in any sort of vampire token strategy, or if you're just in any deck that is white-black and happens to have another vampire, you're excited, because it's a 2-mana 2/2 with amazing upside and a relevant creature type.
Yeah.
I think this card's awesome.
Absolutely. It's, like you said, its fail case of being a 2-mana 2/2, it's still a fine card, even though both mana sources have to be colored. Like, that's... And its ability is excellent. Either you'll want, like, probably, like, 5 other vampires minimum for this card to be really good. But even if you only have 1 or 2 others and just get the upside of it situationally, like, you'll still be happy with it.
And if you're in white-black and you only have 6 vampires in your deck, I want to see what you're running.
Yeah, that seems like a mistake.
Yeah, that feels weird unless you're not counting a whole bunch of Queen's Commission.
Exactly. Excuse me. Our next one along is Jungle Creeper. This is the other one I talked about earlier with the Griffin. It's 1 black-green for a 3/3 elemental, and you can pay 3 black-green to return it from your graveyard to your hand. So this one, you can just... It will be incredibly annoying to play against. Because you can just keep putting it in your hand over and over and over again after it dies. Also, black-green earlier was mostly the explore color. So the idea with this would be you could explore into it and then mill it and bring it back to your hand, and it's a pseudo card draw because you get a card deeper in your deck and you got to bring a card back.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only reason I really gave it a 3 instead of a 3.5 is that black-green isn't the most supported.
Yeah.
Unless you get a Vraska in pack 3. But I think it's a perfectly fine card. I mean, it's a 3/3 for 3 with upside.
Yeah, I like it.
Great.
It's the fact that it's not in a good color pair, and it's not a good creature type. That's what brought it down to a 3. Like you said, I think on power level, it's probably closer to a 3.5. Merfolk Mistbinder is our next card.
It is actually a 3.5.
Yeah, it's a green and a blue for a 2/2 Merfolk Shaman, and other Merfolk you control get +1/1. It is a color-shifted Legion's Lieutenant, and it's pretty close to just as good.
It is almost as good. It is the second best of the Cycle of Lords, because Merfolk just doesn't have as many tokens. It's still great, and I look forward to playing it, but it's not quite as great.
Yeah. I agree. It's not quite as great. I didn't think that was worth deducting any points from. Like, it is slightly worse. I don't think it's worse enough for it to be a 3.5.
If I could give it a 3.8, just to show that it's almost as good as the white-black one, then I would, but that's not in the scale.
Yeah, we cut it off at half points for a reason.
So, yeah, I think our average is pretty darn close.
Absolutely. Continuing on.
Stormfleet Sprinter is it one? It is one, a red and a blue, for a 2/2 pirate with haste and unblockability. I think she's fine. I mean, she's probably more than fine. I don't think she's amazing, but so paying 2 for a 2/2 with haste is great, and paying 2 for a 2/2 unblockable is also pretty great. And when you combine those for only 1 extra mana, you get a pretty great card. Yep. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's still a good card.
Especially since blue and red are the ones that want to raid a lot, and this gives you free raid. You'll have no reason to not attack with it, and every turn you attack with it, you have raid on, and can do the things that come with that.
Yeah, I quite like her.
I think she's neat. A Relentless Raptor is up next. It's red and a white for a 3/3. So it's a 2-mana 3/3, which is excellent. It's a dinosaur, and it has vigilance, and it has to attack or block each combat if able. This is 100% what a Boros aggro deck would want. A 3/3 attacker with vigilance is great. It will suicide itself eventually.
Yeah. But it will probably do a lot before then unless you draw it in the late game, which the late game clause is why I did have to bring it down to a 3 instead of a 3/5.
Yeah, you're wanting to cast this early. If you do, it will either eat a couple small creatures or get in for like 6 damage before it gets blanked. And I'm okay with that for 2 mana.
Yeah. I think it's fine.
That is a relevant thing about how in the late game this is a blank card. Because you'll cast it, they'll attack, you'll have to block with it, and it'll get eaten by whatever you blocked.
You get a dinosaur trigger, though, if that matters. This next card, though, will also give you a dinosaur trigger. It is Siegehorn Ceratops.
This is a rare. We're out of the uncommons now.
We're in rares now, sorry. It is a green and a white for a 2/2 dinosaur. That's fine. It's not rare quality, but it's already fine. And it has Enrage, so whenever it's dealt damage, it gets 2 1/1 counters. But it says, of course, in parentheses, that it must survive the damage to get the counters. I think this is a fine card. It is a creature-type relevant bear with upside.
Yep. If you can manage to use one of your pingers on this, it will be a 4/4 for 2, which is an insane rate. In a 2/2 for 2, it's fine. Also, if this is on the field, they can't attack into you with random 1x's.
Yeah.
Because you'll get a 4/4 out of the deal. I think this card's sweet. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I look forward to drafting it.
Up next we have one of the flip enchantments. It's Profane Procession, which is 1 white and a black. It's a legendary enchantment. And for 3 white and a black, you can exile a target creature. If there are 3 or more cards exiled with Profane Procession, you can transform it. And it transforms into Tomb of the Duskrows, which is a legendary land that can tap to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. and you can pay 2 white, black, and tap it, so again 5 mana, because it would count itself, to put a creature that you exiled with Profane's Procession onto the battlefield, under your control. I think this card is absolutely fantastic. It's a repeatable removal spell, and afterwards you get to cast whatever you removed, which can be absolutely insane.
Yeah, I think it's a very good card. I think, once again, I wish there was a rating between 3.5 and 4, but because as fun as recursion is, would honestly rather if the first part was just one sentence, exile target creature. I would do that all day and be happy with it.
Yep. One of the neat little things about this card, if you have 10 mana, you can use its front side ability twice before they resolve, and then you'll exile 4 creatures out of it, because it will exile the 3rd creature, flip, and then exile the 4th creature afterwards.
Yeah.
That does require you to have 10 mana, which will probably not happen in this format, but it is something you can do if you get there.
The option is open. Yeah, I think it's fine. This next one, though, is also fun. It is Journey to Eternity. 1, a black and a green, so another one of those black-green cards. For, of course, a legendary enchantment, except this one's an aura, enchanting a creature you control. And when an enchanted creature dies, you just bring it back to the battlefield under your control. And then you bring Journey to Eternity to the battlefield, flipped into Atzal or something, Cave of Eternity, and of course still under your control. Atzal is a legendary land that taps for 1 mana of any color, or you can pay 3, a black and a green, and tap it to return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's repeatable recursion once again.
Yeah, if you can, excuse me, if you can manage to get to the backside and activate it more than like once or twice, this card will be incredibly annoying.
Yeah.
Paying 6 mana, essentially, to rebuy any creature in your graveyard is a very efficient way to grind your opponent out, as long as you have a decent target. This is another one that it would be a higher rating if it was in a good color pair. It shouldn't be in a good color pair. This should be the green-black, like, rare flip land. But it's not. Green-black hasn't been particularly good in this format.
Yeah, but it might be. Who knows?
Yeah. And at worst, it works as a 3 mana. What was it called? The Umbras?
Yeah.
So it's essentially a 3 mana Umbra that becomes mana after it's been used, which is fine.
It's not exciting, but it's fine.
Yep, that's like its worst case scenario, too. Moving on, we have Hadana's Climb. It's 1 green and a black for a legendary enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a 1/1 counter on a creature you control. If that creature has 3 or more 1/1 counters on it, transform Hadana's Climb. It transforms into Winged Temple of Oraska, which is also a legendary land. It also can tap to add 1 mana of any color to your pool. And you can pay 1 green blue and tap it.
Yeah.
To give target creature you control flying and plus XX, where X is its power, until end of turn.
I really like it. Yeah, I think that the front side is fine, and the fact that you can get that off of 1 trader sometimes, since you are in blue-green Merfolk, makes it even better. And the flip side reads a lot like any of the Gruul lands from like Innistrad or anything like that. That just gives cool things.
Yeah, this will.
You like it?
The backside will end the game. Turning a 3/3 into a 6/6 flyer will close out the game very, very quickly. I like the front side more than most enchantments like this, because you will get the trigger once because it happens at your combat. So you play this during main 1, and then during your combat it becomes, like, it activates and puts a 1/1 counter on something. One thing to note, it is not a May. Any of it. So you have to put a 1/1 counter on a creature, and then if that creature has 3 or more 1/1 counters on it, you have to transform it. You can pick different creatures to try to spread out the love, or you can rush one to make a big guy that can fly. But if you have a field of like Merfolk with 2 1/1 counters on it, this will transform, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. Oh well.
Which, it transforming is probably good for you, so that's not a bad thing. But if you happen to want the enchantment to stick around more, it will not.
Yeah. Here we have a temporary break in all the flippy flippies with Protean Raider. It is 1, a blue and a red for a 2/2 shapeshifter pirate, and it has a ring. If you attack with a creature this turn, you may have Protean Raider into the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. Yeah, it's a clone. It's weird, but
I don't know why you're kind of low on this card. It's either a 2/2 for 3, which isn't great, but like that's not horrible, or it's the best card on the battlefield.
I'm willing to concede it's probably at least a 3.5.
Okay.
But I don't think it's as high as you have it. I'd say it's probably closer to 3.5 or a 4.
Historically, clones have been good, so I'm willing to give it a bump just on the fact that clones are good. But I don't know. I like that it's modal. That if there's nothing you particularly want to clone, it's a 3-mana 2/2. Or if there's like you just can't get the raid trigger on, like it still works as a card. And then if you do, it's whatever the best card is. Period. Which is.
I mean, I would absolutely love to swing it in, flicker it with any sort of anything, and then have it into the battlefield as the best thing on the field. Because
that would be cool. Alright. I do like that idea. I'm going to have to try it at least once.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, we have another transform land, technically. It's Storm the Vault. It's 2 blue-red for a legendary enchantment. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deals combat damage to a player, you get a treasure token. And at the beginning of your end step, if you have 5 or more treasure tokens, transforms Storm the Vault. It transforms into Vault of Catlacan. It can tap to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, or tap to add blue for each artifact you control. It's a Academy Ruins? No, it's Tolarian Academy.
I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, that being said, Tolarian Academy is a card I particularly want in Limited, and especially not one that I have to pay 4 mana for and wait several turns.
Yeah. I feel like in Limited, I'd be very excited to have this if I had multiples, or even honestly about 1 of the blue-black uncommon from original Ixalan.
Yep.
The power and toughness is equal to the number of artifacts you control, or gets the plus with the number of artifacts you control. I think that would be nice, but
that would also
if I had that, I feel like I'd also... Yeah, but I have a billion treasure tokens, so I could probably cast anything I wanted to. I think it's fine, but it's not anything that I'm going to be running in Limited too often.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on.
This one's weird for me. It is Path of Metal. It is red and a white for its little flippy enchantment. So, of course, it's a legendary. And when it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each creature that doesn't have First Strike, Double Strike, Vigilance, or Haste. And whenever you attack with at least 2 creatures that have First Strike, Double Strike, Vigilance, and or Haste, transform it. It transforms into Metzali, Tower of Triumph, which is, of course, a legendary land that taps for 1 of any color. Or you can pay 1 in a red and tap it, and it deals 2 damage to each opponent. Or you can pay 2 in a white and also tap it to choose a creature at random that attack this turn and destroy that creature.
So
yeah, it's
weird. The front side of this card's honestly pretty uninteresting to me. This card's rating entirely depends on how hard is it to get things with those abilities.
That's why I gave it 2.
Yeah, if you can pay like red and a white, or if your turns could be something like the Boros uncommon, the 3/3 with vigilance, into a second one into this, attack with both, like, then it gets pretty good. Because honestly, the flip side's great. It being lands that deal damage to your opponents are borderline broken, as exemplified by Ramen Up Red and Standard. So, and its second ability, the 2 and a white one that destroys an attack creature at random, there's a lot of fun stuff you can do with that. You can, obviously, you can do it after combat and kill whatever survives. But you can also do it like immediately after they declare attackers and just get rid of one of their creatures.
Yeah.
And then you can do the really fun one, which is have a first striker block one of their creatures. Your first striker kills the one it blocked, and then in response, or before regular damage is dealt, technically it's not in response to anything, you activate this because it's one less creature to choose from. Like, that's just a really neat little side note for me that I like a lot.
I situationally really like it, even though I do feel like it really seems like it was supposed to be an Amonkhet, but then they realized they don't have flip lands.
Yeah, it does feel that way. But
yeah,
I think it's a neat card. I pretty much agree with your rating, which is why I just gave it a flat 2. If it's difficult to flip it, it's not very good. And if it's easy to flip it, it's great. Now, it also does turn on all your random enrage. You play this and...
Or some of them.
Yeah.
It doesn't turn on the ones that have any of those abilities.
Not sure there are any.
There's one, I think. But
So,
I want to confirm.
In the most case, this will ping your entire board if you want enrage. Which also means that it pings your opponent's entire board if they want enrage. So... that's like an break-even effect. Our next card along is Azor the Lawbringer. It's 2 white, blue, blue for a 6/6 Sphinx. It has flying. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent can't cast instants or sorcery spells during their next turn. And whenever it attacks you, you may pay X white, blue, blue, and if you do, you gain X life and draw X cards. The only reason I don't have this out of 5 is that it's in an unsupported color pair.
But the fact that they gave us Sphinx's Revelation on the legs, like, yeah. I don't know that I can ask much more than that, especially from the guy, the original Sphinx, who had the Revelation.
Absolutely.
Right. This is awesome.
Flavorfully, it's great. Its middle ability is essentially flavor text, because that will... It does let it draw or dodge removal for a turn, which is upside. Because... there's not that much instant speed removal that will kill this. Most of the instant speed removal in this set is for small creatures.
Yeah, I'm more worried about Chupacabra and their main too.
Yeah. Chupacabra does make it pretty poor, but for the most part, it will survive a turn cycle, which is one of the things you want most out of your big finisher, which this is.
Yeah.
A color-intensive 6-mana, 6/6 flyer is one I'm super interested in. And then if you ever get to use its ability and cast Sphinx's Revelation, you're just so far ahead.
Oh, yeah. I'm very excited, as you can tell.
Yeah, I like this card a lot. It would be a flat 5 if it was... flavorfully, it wouldn't work. But if it was like white-green or something, like something that you can actually build a deck around and then have this as the top end... White-blue flyers just doesn't seem like it's going to be good enough. And if you get this, though, you should probably build white-blue flyers and just try as hard as you can.
Oh, yeah. Or some sort of tempo build.
Moving on.
We have one of my personal favorites and the one card I actually need for a commander deck. This is Ongroth, the Flame Chained. It is 3 black and a red for a Planeswalker. Legendary, of course, who happens to be Ongroth, a Minotaur dude. He's got 4 loyalty, and his +1 is each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life. His -3 is you gain control of target creature until end of turn and untap it, and it gains haste until end of turn. But you have to sacrifice it at the beginning of the next step if its converted mana cost is 3 or less, which is perfectly fine for me. And then his -8, his ultimate, is that each opponent loses life equal to the number of cards in his or her graveyard, which is never happening in Limited.
Yeah, but I like that both of its abilities play into it.
Yeah.
Because his +1 causes them to discard cards, and then his -3, you steal one of their creatures that costs 3 or less, and then when you sacrifice it, it goes to their graveyard.
Yeah. I think he's great. I mean, he's a Planeswalker in Limited who is also has relevant abilities. He doesn't really protect himself unless they only have one creature that has converted mana cost 3 or less.
And then you're probably winning the game
that makes
anyway.
Sense. Well, yeah, I think it makes some sort of flavor sense because he's kind of very aggressive fellow.
But, yeah, threatens historically aren't the best card in Limited. But a 5-mana threaten is, if you don't know, gain control of target creature and untap it against haste. So it's almost like a threaten that gains you life because they have to deal with Ingraft, so they're going to attack it instead. In Two-Headed Giant, this gets disgusting because it's each opponent, so both of its effects. So you'll take 2 cards out of their hand and they'll lose 4 life, and then its ultimate will probably just kill them immediately.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's pretty darn awesome.
I think he's super sweet.
I might be a little bit. Yeah.
He fits very well into the Black-Red Pirates build that is going to be in Rivals. Our next card's also...
for those of you who are playing other formats, he's also a Minotaur, so there's no tribal there, but it's the fact that you have a card that has a Minotaur printed on it, and it's actually playable, which, as a person who was raised in Theros Standard, that makes my little heart full of joy. But yes, enough fanboying. Moving on to the next Planeswalker.
Our next card's Huatli. It's another Planeswalker. It's Huatli, Radiant Champion. 2 green and a white for a 3 loyalty Planeswalker. She +1s, and you get a loyalty counter for each creature you control. So how that works is she starts at 3. You +1 her, she goes to 4, and then if you have 2 creatures, she gets 2 more and goes to 6. -1, target creature gets +XX until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. And then -8, you get an emblem with whenever a creature enters the battlefield under control, you may draw a card. So you can't even, it can't force you to mill out with this deck, because you can just decide to stop drawing. She goes nuts with any of the green-white token makers in the set.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, she's a Planeswalker in Limited that isn't Symbolic. Like, what more can you ask? She doesn't really protect herself necessarily, but she gains a lot of loyalty early, assuming you have any sort of board state.
Yep. Or late. You play her on turn 10 with 5 creatures, and she goes up to 9 loyalty, and that's hard to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
If you can ever manage... She's almost like an overrun, at worst. You just play her and -1 on whatever your biggest guy with trample is, and swing in with that, and it will be a 8/8 trampler. Altogether, I like her. I think she's going to end up being really fun to play with.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Do we have any more?
Yeah, we've got 3 more mythics.
Okay.
We have Elinda the Dusk Rose, 2 a white and a black for a 1/1 legendary creature vampire, which feels weird, but also exciting. She has lifelink, and when another creature dies, not even you control, just anybody, put a +1/+1 counter on her. And when she dies, you get X 1/1 vampire tokens with lifelink, where X is her power. I think she's pretty good. I mean, I'm going to be really sad when she gets immediately pinged, but
yeah, all the upside to me is her second ability doesn't ask for creatures you control or for non-token creatures, so she plays super well with the vampire soldiers. Because you can chump block for days, and she'll end up as like a 5/5 lifelinker, which is almost impossible to race. And even if they do manage to kill her at that point, you get 5 more 1/1 lifelinkers. And her little corner case, because Mythics always have corner cases. That's pretty neat. Her last ability only checks for her current power, so it includes pump effects. So if they point like a removal spell at her, you can give her +3/3 until end of turn, and then she's a 4/4. And then when she dies, you get 4/1/1s.
Yeah. Which, on the counter side, if they do anything that subtracts her power, then that is going to screw you over. But oh well.
Well, it doesn't make you sacrifice creatures, but yes, it would.
Well, yeah, if they kill her, and then you're like, oh, pump her power, and they're like, nah, subtract her power by a bunch.
Yep. That is a relevant flip side. So if they use like one of the target creatures -2/-2 to kill her, you don't get her last ability. And if she gets exiled, because she has to die to get the last ability.
Yeah.
But altogether, I think she's super sweet. I'm very, very excited to play with her.
Mm-hmm.
Our next card around is Kumena, the Tyrant of Araska. It's 1 green and a blue for a 2/4, legendary Merfolk Shaman. You can tap another Merfolk you control to give Kumena unblockable. You can tap 3 untapped Merfolk you control to draw a card, and you can tap 5 untapped Merfolk you control to put a 1/1 counter on each Merfolk you control. This card's insane.
Yeah. A 3-mana 2/4 relevant creature type. I can stop there and be happy. And the fact that it has not difficult to get unblockable, it has the 3 little magic words of draw a card, and it puts 1/1 counters on all of your Merfolk. I think this card's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So first, with the things to talk about with this card, all of the abilities can be instant speed. There's no reason to do the first one at instant speed, but all of them can be. So on defensive, if you have a bunch of random of the 1/1 hexproofers, you can throw them in front of a bunch of guys and then tap them all down to grow them all.
Mm-hmm.
Same with drawing a card. You can just wait till the end of your turn, so then you still have blockers up. And if you ever get to do that last ability, you're probably going to be winning the game.
Yeah.
Growing your entire team.
Yeah.
And the other little fun part is all of his abilities get around summoning sickness, including his own, because they don't have the tap symbol. So you can play like a Merfolk creature, and then tap it immediately to give him unblockable for the turn, and the only thing you lose out is it on a blocker. You don't even lose an attacker.
And, once again, he makes our favorite little blue uncommon that gets us 2 Merfolk even better.
We're not playing Aquatic Incursion.
If I get a Kumena and a solid amount of other Merfolk tribal, you know I'm going to try it.
Absolutely. Our last card in the colored mythics is Zakama, the Primal Calamity. It's 6 red, green, white. I love that you gave it a dual rating. For a 9/9 legendary Elder Dinosaur. It has Vigilance, Reach, and Trample. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, untap all lands you control. You can pay 2 in a red to deal 3 damage to target creature, 2 in a green to destroy an artifact or enchantment, and 2 in a white to gain 3 life. So the joke of this card is, you pay 9 mana, you slam it into play, you untap all your lands, and then you get to use its abilities 3 times.
Yeah. I think if you... that's why I gave it 2 ratings. If you ever cast it, it is a definition bomb. But the fact is, you are probably never casting and sticking this card in any limited format ever.
Let me dream.
Yeah, your dreams are kind of scary.
I will play the stupid blue-red Brass's Bounty, make a treasure for each land you control, just to get to play this guy.
Okay, guys, I need a new co-host.
That's fair. I mean, like you said, there's not super much to say about this card other than it's fantastic and like super sweet.
If you ever cast it,
you're never actually casting it reasonably, but if you ever do, you're probably winning the game on the spot. Moving into colorless cards.
Yep. First colorless common is Gleaming Barrier. It is 2 generic for a 0/4 artifact creature wall with Defender, of course. And when it dies, you get a treasure.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I think you're closer on it than I am. It's weird because it doesn't like combo with itself because it's hard to get a 0/4 wall to kill itself to get the treasure out of it. But that being said, it's a 2-mana wall that will stop their attacks for 2 or 3 turns until they can get past it.
Yeah, I mean it's a fine stall card that keeps your Ascend just as online even after it dies.
Yep. That stalling isn't really what you want to do in this format. You probably want to just be aggressive, but if you have a big mana green Dinos deck, this might be a card you want just to take a few turns off and then give you a mana afterwards.
Or if you have an Ace or the Lawbringer, and you just want to stall out until you try and get him on field.
Also true. Our next card along is Orazca Relic. It's 3 mana for an artifact with Ascend. You can tap it for a colorless, and you can sacrifice and tap it to gain 3 life and draw a card after you have the City's Blessing. This card is exactly what I want out of Mana Rocks nowadays. We're obviously not getting Soul Rings anymore. Early on, it takes turn 3 to play it, but early on, it's a mana source. It ramps you ahead a little bit, and then after you don't need mana anymore because you have 10 permanents, so you have 6 lands on the field, you get to gain a little bit of life out of it and draw a card.
I think that it's fine. It's nothing to write home about for me, but it's just okay, even though you are spending your turn 3 to not actually affect the board in any way, which really hurts me deep inside. So I don't plan on playing it really ever, but I might if I'm in that strategy. And I understand that it's probably better than I'm making it out to be. Not much.
Strider Harness is up next. It's 3 mana for an equipment that gives the equipped creature +1/1 and haste, and you can equip for 1. This is what you want an equipment to be. Equipment.
I like the haste. That's the big deal for me.
You make the joke about drawing a card being the magic 3 little words. On equipment, the magic 2 words is equip 1.
Yeah.
So,
or equip 0 is the real magic word.
Yeah, but how this card will usually play is you'll take your turn 3 to not do anything, which is unfortunate, but it happens. And then on turn 4, you'll play your 3-drop and equip it and attack with it as +1/1. Because in most cases, your 3-drop wouldn't attack until turn 4 anyway, so you're not losing a turn on attacks, but you are losing a turn on blocking.
Yeah, and since you wasted a turn to cast Strider Harness, you really want those attacks in. And I really like this one's flavor text as opposed to the original.
Yeah.
I think this flavor text is great.
It's a pretty good one.
I look forward to playing it, but I also sort of look forward to ever getting to play this next card, which is another classic reprint, which with good flavor text and art, is Traveler's Amulet. It is a single generic to play for an artifact, and you can pay 1 and sack it to fetch a basic land card from your library into your hand. If there's any sort of big mana deck or any sort of big tricolor deck, I want this in there. But I hesitate to run it in a 2-color deck.
I would be okay with running it in a 2-color deck because it does let you shape a mana source. But generally speaking, you don't want to be playing this unless you're on 3-colored. But it doesn't actually ramp you because it puts it into your hand, but it does completely fix you perfectly. I think it's great. I like Traveler's Amulet. It's a solid common, and I'm happy they put it back in the set. Especially since Tricolor is very much supported. Our next card along is Awakened Amalgam.
Amalgam, but yes.
Amalgam. It's 4 mana for a Star Golem, artifact creature. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of differently named lands you control. Generally speaking, this will be a 4 mana 2/2, which is not good. But there are also the times where you'll be able to play